And so I'm asking you, if you're going to go and take my property by force like that, how is that different than stealing from me?
Well, because we have the legal authority to do so.
Oh, you have the legal authority. What is? But
yeah.
So you would have to have evidence that the Constitution and laws apply to me, right?
Right.
Now, without the
we
evidence,
operate based on the Washington state statutes that the legislature has completely spelled out what we are supposed to be doing here.
Okay.
And that's what we do.
Okay. Now, without a legal sanction, wait, let me finish. Without a legal sanction, it would just be garden variety robbery. It's really the same. You're taking my property by force. And you only have what you call a legal sanction. So what evidence would you have to prove that the Constitution and laws apply to me just because I was physically located in Washington?
Look, I understand that you have there's an ideological kind of underlying main issue with the way that the government acts and, how the laws are spelled out. But, as I said before, my role here is not to answer those type of questions.
Really?
I have specific instruction, that we have as a regulatory agency, we have specific instruction from our legislature. Mm-hmm. It's all spelled out how we're supposed to be conducting ourselves, and that's what we do. And so,
but that still begs the question.
There's a bigger issue for us to prove what we're doing. I mean, that's just not something for me to do.
Okay, but stick with me here and answer the question. What facts would you rely on to prove that the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington apply to me just because I'm physically located in Washington?
And as I already told you, I rely strictly on the Washington state statutes that are laid out for us.
Great. Now, what evidence would you have that those apply to me just because I was physically in Washington?
Well, why wouldn't they apply to you if you're physically in Washington?
We're trying to separate garden variety robbery from a legally sanctioned seizure. And the only thing that you have to separate those two is
a court order.
Well,
yeah.
But what evidence would there be for you to prove that the Constitution and laws apply to me just because I'm physically located in Washington? You see what I'm getting at?
I don't, unfortunately.
Can you? But can you answer the question? What evidence would there be to prove that the Constitution and laws apply to me because I'm physically located in Washington?
As I said, we rely on the Washington state statutes that are spelled out for us.
I got that, but I'm asking you for what evidence you would have to prove that it applied to me just because I was physically in Washington. See, and your lack of an answer, it leads me to believe that you don't have a legal sanction. That if you were just going to take the property,
it doesn't. I mean, it's not for me to answer.
But you're saying that you have this authority. You're saying you have this jurisdiction that the laws allow you to do X, Y, Z.
Instruction based on Washington state statute that's spelled out for this agency, and that's. I'm sorry, as I said, it's not for me to. Kind of answer to that. I mean, we're here doing what we're asked to do, and that's the extent of it. If there's a bigger issue at hand and you think that, this agency should not have been given the authority to file liens and seize assets, then that's unfortunately not for someone at my level. That would have to be raised to, the legislature or the governor or someone who actually writes those policies and hands them down to us.
But someone at the legislature is not the one. He's not the one with the boots on the ground. You have made several determinations, not necessarily against, and we'll get back to that. But you're making them against me, and I'm asking you questions in a logical manner.
No, we were talking in generalities. You're asking what kind of actions the agency takes, if this, if that. Yeah. And I've explained it to you. And I've explained why we make those decisions and why we do that.
But you're not able to explain the evidence.
I understand that it's not satisfying to you, but that's the most that I can give you, unfortunately.
Well, no, it's satisfying. I believe that you're not able to provide any evidence that the laws actually apply. So there's really nothing that you can't make take a position logically that there's a legal sanction separating your actions from robbery, that you're taking property by force, and this so-called legal sanction you say you have no evidence to actually prove it's applicable. So basically, at least in my situation, if you came and took my property, it would be garden variety theft. You would be no different than the thief on the street. You have no legal sanction, because there's no evidence that your constitutional laws apply, and you're not in a position to even discuss it with me. So,